seriously popular.
Hi, Kelly. It's so good to be back in MAGAland.
Absolutely. We missed you.
We have so much to get into today, including some special guests.
We really do. We have Matt and Mercedes Schlapp here today to discuss about CPAC and more.
Ooh, we'll be right back with them right after this break.
Welcome to MAGAland.
Welcome back to MAGAland. Today we're joined by Matt and Mercedes Schlapp. Matt Schlapp is a well-known Republican political lobbyist and activist who is chair of CPAC. He worked over George W. Bush's administration and has been very influential in the DC political scene. And Mercedes Schlapp is also a communications specialist and political commentator. She worked for George W. Bush and also in the Trump administration as the White House Director of Strategic Communications. So thank you so much, Matt and Mercedes, for joining us today. We want to get into all things CPAC this year. What can we expect? What can we anticipate? We'll be there with a booth. So what are some of the highlights we can look into this year?
Well, first, can I say, I love this MAGAland thing. This is quite fun. It does have the green color of the Broadway show and movie Wicked, which is interesting to see. I would think it would be like red, white, and blue, but this is really fun. Shep, what can we expect for CPAC this year?
I think we stole their joy. I think we're going to be the joyful people. We have stolen joy at CPAC this year. By the way, I've never met a joyful communist. I don't think that exists. They're the most miserable sons of bitches you ever hang out with. I really do think people are excited. It's not just in America, but around the globe. It'll have a real international flair to it. Less elected officials will be speaking probably than in any year I remember. People that are running groups or people that are just involved in the private economy. It's a really interesting schedule that we are very excited to make public.
Tell us more about that because, of course, this year's CPAC is going to be way different because you're coming from a side of victory rather than opposition. So as you mentioned, joy, tell me more about that. Are you guys going to make a point of kind of celebrating your victory?
It's more than celebrating. I think it's important to understand that CPAC, as President Trump went through it, as so many MAGA supporters went through it, were targeted by the left, targeted by smear campaigns, by misinformation that we saw coming out of the legacy media trying to destroy groups like CPAC, trying to destroy President Trump. And we saw the lawfare happening to so many of our own friends. It was really disgusting to watch because you always say that can't happen in America, right? And it really came to the United States and impacted so many conservative groups and so many of President Trump's supporters and President Trump himself. So to watch CPAC be able to not only grow and expand here in the United States, but now we have a very strong international footprint where you have delegations coming from across the globe, foreign leaders speaking at CPAC, saying, look, we've got to stop the wokeism. We've got to stop communist forces in our country. We've got to stop the leftist propaganda. It's very significant. And I think this is not just a moment of celebration. It's a moment of rolling up our sleeves. It's a moment of talking about what can be done in these next 4 years and hopefully in the next 12 years with the next Republican president as well. This is an everyday type of effort that we hone in on, not only at CPAC, but with making sure that President Trump is able to be successful and the Republican Party in delivering for the American people. And that's going to be securing our border, making sure there's economic prosperity, fighting down inflation, and ending wokeism in America and going back to this, as President Trump calls, the revolution of common sense. And I do think for CPAC, one of the phenomenons that's going to happen, it's going to be a mix of, yes, government officials, President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, but also social media influencers, cultural influencers, business executives. It's going to be such an interesting mix of very top-notch speakers that it's really going to be mind-blowing and epic, quite frankly.
And I want to ask you both, since you've both worked in previous administrations, now we're about 3 weeks into Trump's first 100 days. We've been following every twist and turn on MAGAland. How would you rate his performance so far? And do you think that this administration has come out stronger than any administration before this in terms of the number of executive actions taken already?
Trump broke a lot of things. He broke a lot of people. He broke a lot of liberals and leftists with the TDS stuff, the Trump derangement syndrome. He's really broken the model of the White House. Usually, you would do these executive orders on the first day or the first 2 days and then get back to other things. And Trump has been doing this day after day after day. He's taking to social media where he now has accounts again, which is outrageous that places like the previous X, Twitter, and Facebook took away his accounts before. He's really changing the whole model of how you be a successful president. Now, Republicans, let's just remember, most center right parties around the world are dying because they got scared because they got constantly attacked by the media and they had their own version of lawfare. In America, the Republican Party was going down that road. They didn't really want to make fights. They want to make nice. They want to do redistricting in a way where you guys have your seats, we have our seats, and hopefully we'll win a slight majority. But if we lose, we're sure going to be nice guys about it. And Trump came in and said, "You're going to lose doing that. We're going to have a whole new model. We're going to beat the hell out of these guys every day." And so the Republican Party, unlike almost all the other center right parties in the world, it's on the ascendancy, I believe. I believe it's growing and getting bigger and adding to its coalition because it decided it wanted to fight. Now, the Republicans that are in Congress and everything else, it's still hard for them to get used to Trump. They keep wanting to go back to the old way of that's a little too obnoxious, that's a little too radical, that's a little too much for me. And I think Trump is going to have to spend 2 years explaining to them that you fight on the budget, you fight on waste, fraud, and abuse, you fight on their ethics problems, you fight on everything. And that's the only way you win. It's total war, total political war. And I'm completely for it.
Going off of what you said, Trump does represent a new kind of right, a new kind of Republican Party that was aligned with CPAC values. And it seems like now it's not only winning against Democrats, but also the old Republican Party. This was your mission, right? To have this new type of right in power. Tell us about how CPAC has contributed to the type of right that's now ruling this country.
For Mercy and I, we were DC insiders. Some people would have called us establishment Republicans, but we listened to people and people were hurting and people were mad that the Republicans would run on certain things like we're going to shut down the IRS or we're going to eliminate Obamacare or we're going to have school choice. They would run on things and there'd be absolutely no progress that was made on it. People started to view the Republicans as just giving them kind of empty promises. And Mitch McConnell's speech would have 20 or 25 things conservatives really want to have happen. But he had no intention of doing any of it. He wanted to talk about picking judges that would overturn Roe v. Wade, assuming that no judges would actually do that. So we were listening and we realized we need an outsider because our party's leadership is hopelessly mired in this bad strategy of never winning any of the fights. And it was interesting when we go overseas, we could see the same dynamic happening. I don't think Mercy and I were smarter. I just think that we had enough experience to see, wait a minute, there's a whole upheaval in politics. There's the Nigel Farage's and the Jair Bolsonaro's. Now you have Javier Milei and you have Giorgia Meloni. You have these people, they're outsiders. They come in a whole different way. They didn't come up through all the elected positions in the normal way. They're not beholden to the same oligarchs. That's exactly what freedom needs right now.
It's interesting you mentioned CPAC values. That really caught my attention because the CPAC values of making sure that it is a strong American nation. It's about economic prosperity. It is about national security. It's about ensuring a public safety for Americans. Those are the pillars. And it's fascinating to watch because you see the legacy media talking about far right parties. And when you think about it, it's like kind of very common sense. We want parents to be empowered to raise their children and not be indoctrinated by the left. We want to ensure that people have economic opportunity so that if you are born into poverty, the great thing about America is that you're able to uplift yourself and work hard and get a better job and have educational opportunities. It goes very much into the values of freedom, protection of the Bill of Rights, freedom of speech, freedom of the press. It is critical that we work hard to maintain those freedoms. Look, I come from a family where my father fought against the Cuban Castro regime. He was thrown into jail for 6 years. He was tortured by these communists. So it is very personal for us and for our family because we saw what happened when my father tells the stories, came from nothing, became a successful businessman. Here came the communists. They took everything from him. And he taught me, look, your freedoms are fragile. This democracy, this republic in America is fragile. And you have an obligation to protect these freedoms for the next generation. And CPAC comes from this long history of Ronald Reagan, of William F. Buckley, of really these incredible, strong conservative thought leaders of saying, when America is strong, especially looking at it from the international stage, you make for a much more peaceful world. And I think those are the big messages and our mission on what we focus on when it comes to CPAC.
I think it's quite interesting you bring up disruptors in the party. So, right now, it's been minutes since Tulsi Gabbard was confirmed as the next director of national intelligence. RFK Jr. is lined up to be confirmed later this week. We have Elon Musk, who's really riling up the Democrats who are totally against him because he's a quote unelected and he shouldn't have all this power that he's been handed. Curious where you see these, I guess it's the new Republican Party, new leadership fitting into CPAC. Are these people that you're going to invite on stage that you want to engage with? How can former Democrats and liberals who have really turned the page fit in with CPAC?
CPAC has been at the forefront of this. We have been inviting people for 8 years who infuriated some people in the conservative movement because we gave them a spot. We gave Tulsi Gabbard her first spot in kind of a non-democratic place. She was our keynote speaker at the Ronald Reagan dinner a few years ago. She gave a great speech about what it's like to be canceled. They call her a spy. They call her a traitor. It's very upsetting for her. So she really connected with our conservative populist MAGA crowd because they know what it's like to be told that you're a racist, that you're a hater, that you're anti-immigrant just because you don't want to have an open border. All this craziness that we've had to deal with. We had RFK at one of our events, and I got a call from every senior campaign official minus one screaming at me. I was on my back porch here telling me that if he did well, he was going to prevent Donald Trump from getting the presidency. I was like, let CPAC do its thing and let the campaign do its thing. CPAC's thing is to try to figure out creative ways to grow the coalition. We have more freedom and flexibility than a politician or a candidate has. And so that also means we make mistakes. And it also means that we're the subject of criticism. But part of that is we're a safe place for some of these people to speak at first.
That was a really good insight into the state of MAGAland. Thank you so much for the schlaps for joining us today, and we'll be right back after this break. We are back to break down everything that has happened in the Trump administration over just 2 days, which could actually fill 4 entire podcasts.
It's crazy. We could do 500 hours of this.
Kelly, we are now seeing some of Trump's changes be really solidified, especially by Google. Google has officially changed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Not only that, they really are going all in with Trump because apparently Google Calendars has also removed Black History Month and Pride Month. So it appears that they're falling in line.
That's interesting. It's surprising to me to see how quickly they got in line because Trump only on Sunday when he was on Air Force One going to the Super Bowl declared the Gulf of America as he was crossing the Gulf of America, if you will. It shows how, we've discussed before, the big tech giants are really bending the knee to Trump.
The difference.
They're getting work done quickly. I think it's interesting that now this Gulf of America name change has sparked several other name changes. It's like a name change domino. Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, he issued a proclamation just a few days ago, changing Fort Liberty back to Fort Bragg after controversy over the name. There's been a renaming of Greenland proposal. A Republican in Congress wants to rename it the Red, White, and Blue Land, which is funny. And then another one that I thought was interesting yesterday was the governor of Illinois actually had a proposal out to rename the Great Lakes to, instead of Lake Michigan, Lake Illinois. So it's really starting a flurry of renamings. What's your take on those?
I have several takes on this. I don't know that conservatives should be so focused on revenge and going back to these names, particularly with Fort Bragg, given that it was celebrating a Confederate traitor. I think most Americans can agree that we don't really need all that. I thought that picture he posted signing the declaration of the name change on the official airplane was similar to what Trump has been doing. And I thought, would Trump like that? Because we know that Trump does not like to be outstage. He likes for everyone to know he's the one in charge. And that post of Pete Hegseth being very much a broadcast star, signing the name and saying we're going back. But in general, I feel like they're falling into the same silly actions that the left did with changing names. Like, I think we all would like to move on, and the American people would like to see this government focus on more important things than just name revenge.
I think it's a little bit silly, but for Trump, it's dead serious. He actually threw out an AP reporter yesterday from the Oval Office because the AP won't accept the Gulf of America as like an editorial decision. So the AP is no longer allowed for executive order signings in the Oval Office, which in the DC media is a huge
That's
deal.
huge. But also, the AP sets the rules for all other outlets that follow AP style. So,
Yeah, they had a very long explanation about how it's had that name for over 400 years, and they would acknowledge Trump's change, but they weren't going to refer to the body of water officially as the Gulf of America.
that's going to be a fight to watch.
And I think Trump kind of loves it. So they're honestly giving him a little fuel on the fire.
I did want to point something out that English speakers might miss. In Latin America, we do not call the US America. We actually refer to the entire continent as the continent of America. So it might not be this controversial for Latin Americans because it still sounds just like the Gulf of our continent. We call the US Estados Unidos. So something I don't know if Republicans realize.
Yeah, I don't think that's on the radar, but Trump's marching ahead, and I guess we'll see if he finds any other bodies of water or mountains to rename in the meantime.
But we have another Elon Musk appearance to talk about, and there's a lot that went down.
Oh, yeah.
Again, Trump being a showman in the Oval Office and being joined by the first buddy, Elon Musk, and his son X. Kelly, I have a lot of questions for you. Why is it always that one son? He has other little kids. So why is he always bringing X around? Also, how appropriate is it if it was a female liberal doing this in the Oval Office? Would everyone think it's cute? Also, I want to point out that Grimes, the singer, has been publicly pleading that she does not want her son to be used this way.
It's quite interesting. So yesterday, Trump announced a big executive order that has to do with DOJ, his agency that's stripping apart the federal bureaucracy and government waste. Basically, this order will limit the amount of federal employees. It'll direct all the agencies to figure out ways they can slash their own agencies, fire more individuals, and basically just shrink the government size down so that we can get rid of some of the $1 trillion national debt that we have. During the White House event, Trump barely spoke. He actually deferred to Elon Musk, who is standing over his right shoulder with his son X. Elon ended up speaking for about 30-ish minutes. We spoke to a body language expert who gave us some exclusive analysis on the interactions between Trump and Musk and what that signals about their power dynamics. She told us that Elon was standing in a position like a butler would stand in a throne room, which I thought was quite interesting. So because Trump was seated, he was signaling, I have the power here. I'm letting you speak when I want. You can go ahead. And Elon kind of took it away. So I think Trump's still signaling, hi, yes, I'm the top dog. This is my, person I'm putting in charge of all my tasks and to carry out my agenda, but he's not really the one with the power.
I was wondering about that. Why is Trump so relaxed in this context? You can tell he was relaxed.
Yeah.
And that makes perfect sense. And I think Elon Musk is smart enough to, again, as I just discussed, Trump does not like to be outstage. He has to show he's the one in charge. I think Elon Musk knows that and might be pandering to that. I've also noticed that Democrats seem to really be angling on getting Trump angry about this. If you look at editorials, at their posts, at Occupy Democrats on X, they're all trying to make Trump jealous. They're all like to see Elon Musk as a threat.
There's an ongoing DOJ subcommittee hearing going on right now, actually. And there was a clip that went viral of Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, and she was just going after Elon, saying he's unelected. What are the Republicans doing? How could Trump let this happen? Blah, 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 which Republicans eat up. They're saying this is amazing. Democrats can't get it together. They're just going crazy on Elon, trying to find ways to get him booted out, channeling everything, all their angst, all their hate on Elon, while Trump just does whatever he wants. I think it's working really well for him.
The press was there and they tried to fact check Elon Musk in real time. Let's hear how Elon reacted.
Mr. Musk, you said on X that an example of the fraud that you have cited was $50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza. But after fact check this, apparently Gaza in Mozambique, and the program was to protect them against HIV. So can you correct the statements? It wasn't sent to Hamas, actually. It was sent to Mozambique, which makes sense why condoms was sent there.
Yeah.
And how can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes. I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about.
So again, Kelly, it seems all the attacks against the Trump administration are not sticking because Elon just said it doesn't matter where they went. I don't think they should have gone anywhere.
Yeah, he also admitted we're going to make mistakes at the pace we're going at, but we'll fix them along the way. And it just dispelled all the drama around that. I think Elon is loving this role. I don't think he's going to let it go anytime soon.
How does he have time, Kelly? He is the one who runs SpaceX, Tesla. It's mad.
It is, yes. I don't know how he has the time. I know that he's sleeping at the Office of Personnel Management in beds along with his 25-year-old, quote, nerd army with him. So they're wasting no time. They're getting to work.
On another note, let's go back to men Trump could be jealous of, perhaps, or threatened by, because he was asked if J.D. Vance will be his successor and doesn't seem he's into it. Let's take a listen.
Do you view Vice President J.D. Vance as your successor, the Republican nominee in 2028?
No, but he's very capable. I mean, I don't think that I think you have a lot of very capable people. So far, I think he's doing a fantastic job. It's too early. We're just starting.
I thought this answer from Trump was quite telling. It's a classic Trumpism where he's not closing the door on other potential good candidates. I think he does back J.D. Vance and is very proud of the work that he's done, particularly in getting his cabinet confirmed over the last several weeks. But there are other really good cabinet standouts. Pete Hegseth, we talked about him taking on a Trump persona on his flight abroad. He's really staking out a claim for himself. I could see him wanting to throw his hat in the ring. There are several other up-and-coming Republicans that would want to be a part of a 2028 primary. I imagine Nikki Haley won't be out of the running anytime soon. She'll probably get back involved. Not that Trump would necessarily back her since they still have their ongoing feud, but I think Trump is just basically keeping the door open, and he's just trying to create that intrigue that he's so good at creating about his own cabinet, and I think eventually he will back J.D. Vance, though.
I wonder what J.D. Vance thought about that interview, because for sure he seems to have higher ambitions and he seems to be gathering support for that. As I mentioned, a lot of people have already been calling him 48 on Twitter.
He's also entangled in quite some drama with Pope Francis over the immigration orders of the Trump administration. So we're waiting to see if he'll fire back at the Pope. But the Pope basically took a swipe at him yesterday or the day before, saying these orders coming out of the Trump administration are not okay. They're inhumane and they should be rolled back. So he's already getting under the skin of world leaders, which is a good sign that you're doing something right in terms of how Trump views his cabinet and his officials.
That's true. Well, is that it for today?
I think so.
Remember to email us at welcometomagaland@dailymail.com and follow us on Instagram at welcometomagaland.